Good morning, everyone. It is time for another youth stream this morning. Hope you're all well. And I think you are all now finished exams, which is so exciting. So I hope that you have all, they've all went okay for you. And I hope that you're now ready to relax and enjoy the summer almost. School's almost done as well. Yeah, so now that summer's coming up, I thought I'd also just plug the fact that SU holidays are now open to book for. They're doing day camps, I think called Holidays Unleashed, which is quite exciting. Online events as well, and expeditions. I've heard that one of our youth might be going on a canoe expedition, which is quite exciting. So yeah, get on SU Holidays website and try and book something because they've got hundreds of stuff that you can look into. So yeah, hope you enjoy that.
Awesome. So coming up this week, as usual, we have got our Thursday games. Keep an eye on Instagram and we will let you know what games we are playing. But also at 8 o'clock, we will be streaming live on Twitch. I think, Corrin, is the link to the Twitch in the Insta bio?
Yes.
Yes, so click the link in the Insta bio and it'll take you to it, give us a follow, and then you'll get a notification for when we go live. As well as that, today, provided you're watching on Sunday morning, today we have got Park Sundays. And as far as we're aware, Rob is coming down for his first Park Sundays. The weather, last I checked, is looking pretty spectacular for it. Yeah. So come down, enjoy some Newcombe ball, have some fun, some good chat as well. And finally for me, Rob has said that he is wanting to come around the house groups just to get a chance to meet as many of you as he can. So if you keep an eye out, your house group leaders might let you know in advance. They also might not. So you might find that Rob just turns up one week. So you'll get an opportunity to meet him. Yes. Yeah. So Corrin, you're on the talk this week. What are we taking a look at?
We are looking at James 3. I think it's 3. I'm pretty sure it's 3. And it's about controlling your tongue, and there's a little bit at the end about kind of disunity, and it kind of just links back to everything we've been talking about already. And our interview is with James Borland. Cool, let's get into that.
It's Jim. Hello, Jim. Welcome to our youth stream. How are you today?
It's quite cold up here in space, but apart from that, it's all right.
Yeah, I'm loving how socially distant you're keeping. So good, so good. Well done. So before we get to know you completely, I do have my first question is, what would you choose as your last meal on Earth?
Well, my favourite meal is broccoli chicken. So it's basically broccoli with chicken pieces and mayonnaise, Campbell's condensed soup and curry powder, and topped with cheese, grated cheese and bread. And that's my favourite meal. So I'd probably eat that because I know that I've made it. It's going to be okay.
That is crazy. That's like so many different things all in one. Like, I'm actually really wanting you to make me that now and see what it tastes like. That's so cool. Never heard that before. Amazing. Amazing. So, Jim, how might we know you? How might the youth have seen you before?
A few years ago, I used to go to FNL, so I was involved with FNL for a few years. I was also, the youth today probably were in my Sunday group as well. I did P's, 4s and 5s, 9:30 service. I also did praise and worship, and also did the summer club. So the P6s and 7s that were in my gazebo are all youth now. In fact, they're probably working. So that's how they would probably know me now. The youth were in my Sunday groups and my gazebo. Basically.
I always remember your decorations on your gazebo were always the highlight at Holiday Club. Definitely, yeah. I was always in awe of them. So good.
So every single year I tried to beat them.
But no, Jim always got the better. So good.
Well, the thing what had happened was my wife Michelle and I, we had gone to Greenbelt down in England festival, and we worked at children's ministry there, and there was 250 kids in one of the gazebos, and so we had to dress the gazebos up to make them participate so much. So that's how we got our education about dressing up gazebos, by doing a marquee of 250 kids up.
Wow, that is insane. That is mental. I do not envy you there. So Jim, my next question is, what is your job? What do you do on a daily basis when you're not serving in church?
At this moment in time, I'm a senior learning development officer. Basically, I am a manager for the night shift team, and we deliver training to staff who work night shifts in residential childcare and also residential older adult homes. we deliver courses like suicide prevention, mental health, stress awareness, etc. And we also ensure that people get the SVQ qualifications they need to be able to do their job. They need that for the registration purposes, so we make sure that we do that. So that's our main job now. Previously, I worked in residential childcare, and then I moved on to, so now I'm working with staff.
So good.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you spoke a bit earlier about some of the ways you serve in church, but are there any other ways that you serve in church or just in life in general?
I'm involved with the Recovery Life Cafe, although we've not been meeting for a year, but we meet once a month in the KBC in the hall. We hire that hall out, and what we do, we have a different theme each month. We give a 2-course meal and entertainment, etc. to people. Originally, it was meant for folk with drug and alcohol problems, but now it's everybody comes, the whole family come, because these issues don't affect just one person, they affect the whole family. So people who are isolated, people who are lonely, people with debt, etc., they all come to it. So what we do, we have a different theme each month. So the last one we had was last March, and we had a 50s night. So we had a dance group coming and doing 50s jiving. We also have Christmas, we had karaoke nights and 80s nights and things like that, so, and I'm the DJ for the night, so I do the music, so that's something I particularly enjoy doing.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Oh, a 50s night. I'm trying to remember the dress code for the 50s. Was that flared trousers, or am I thinking?
No, that's 70s. That's my
that's
favourite.
70s.
That's my favourite one. No, 50s. You had rock and rollers and things like that.
Yep.
You've jogged the memory there. Brilliant. So why is it you serve in all these different ways?
I think I like to help other people. I think years ago when I was in the Boys Brigade, I used to do a badge work called the Achievement Scheme, and so it helped people to achieve certain goals, right? And now that I'm a wee bit older, I feel that I want to pay back, and so I look to try and help others achieve things and help them to achieve their goals, especially people who have got mental health issues or people who are struggling in life. I try to help them as much as possible, whether it's through training or teaching, or whether it's through just the way I live.
Amazing, amazing. So how has lockdown affected everything that you're involved in?
Well, the Recovery Life Cafe has stopped, so we've not been able to meet or do anything. Also, church, I've not been able to go to church to help out in a peace 4s to 5s. Work-wise, I've been working from home for the past 12 months. So I'm sitting in front of a computer. I'm learning all about Teams. We're not allowed to use Zoom in our work. We've got to use Microsoft Teams. So I've had to learn how to use Microsoft Teams. And a good thing about it is I've been able to communicate with my staff as well. And we use that. It's been beneficial from that. We've become closer even though we're further away. So I've had to learn a lot about IT. I've not been able to meet with staff to enhance their SVQs, etc. That's been put on hold. Only recently I've been able to get back into the older adult homes. I've been in the last month. My mum's in one of the homes in Postle Park, so I've been actually in the home the past 4 weeks into a room. So I go and get my lateral flow test done, make sure I'm all right, and then I can go and visit her. So that's good. It's been near normal getting back into it. But in the past 12 months, I've done a lot of walking, 10,000 steps every day, sometimes 20,000. So I got to know the area quite well. I've been in Moodiesburn umpteen times.
So good, so good.
Well, I guess coming off the back of that, how can we be praying for you?
I think as we move away from lockdown, it's a case of trying to sort of re-establish myself. And obviously, what life as we know it will change, right? So that there's no two ways about it. So a lot of the stuff we used to meet socially for, we can do online. So it'll be a kind of, I want to get into deliver training again at work, face to face. It's far better doing that face to face than it is doing it online. because you don't get the same interaction. People can ask questions there, at the time. It's going into breakout rooms. It's not the same as being there, So for me, that's one of the big things that I know staff have missed. And also, as people move out of lockdown, their mental health issues will be sky high. So in order to support them, I need to be able to go in and do suicide prevention, mental health training courses, etc. within work to support staff to bring them out the other end safely. So I think that, for me, is one of the big things. From that perspective, also, from the Recovery Life Cafe, there'll be people that we've lost over the past 12 months, and people we need to sort of bring, reconnect with people again and try and develop ways of which people can communicate with one another. So I think that will be a big thing. How do we change the Recovery Life Cafe? It's the same for church as well. How do we do that when we meet the children again? How do we re-establish these relationships and connections that we've lost in the past 12 months? So it helped to do all that.
Yeah, we will definitely be praying for that for you.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
a lot
you.
of stuff. So
Sorry, it's taped.
do you have a favourite Bible verse you'd like to share with you?
Yes, favourite Bible verse is in the New Testament, St. Luke chapter 2, verse 52. It says, "And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favour with God and men." Many years ago, when I was in the Boys Brigade, they used this as the point of reference for the badge work that they did. Wisdom was education, stature was physical, with God was spiritual, and with man was social. So I used that. I learned about that when I was a boy, and then years later when I worked in the children's home, I changed the paperwork to reflect the same things, as well. So I used that, and now that I'm delivering training and supporting staff, I use the same cornerstones in order to support people through with a physical and mental health, etc.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And do you have a piece of advice, lastly, for the youth?
Yes, I think one of the pieces of advice I would have was treat people with the same dignity and respect that you would like to be treated with.
Yep, that's a good one. Perfect one. Well, that's the end of the questions we have for you. It's actually, I feel so inspired. That has been really amazing. Thank you so much for coming to speak to us.
Thank you for inviting me. I was really pleased to get the invitation. Okay, I'll need to go back to Pluto now, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully the youth will be able to visit you on whatever planet you end up on.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye.
Bye.
Good morning, KBC youth. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're enjoying the sun if it's sunny. It's kind of cloudy here just now, but I hope you're enjoying that anyway. So over the last few weeks, we've been talking about James, or talking about the book of James, the book that James wrote, called James. So we've been over the testing of faith was the first one, or we had the overview, and then it was the testing of faith, hearing and doing the word, not having favourites, and last week Ailey talked on faith without works is dead. Good. This week we're going to go on to what I'm calling avoiding conflict and disunity. It's basically talking about controlling your tongue is the wording that it uses, but we know that kind of means less like putting a clamp on your actual tongue and more just being aware of what you say, controlling what you say. And before I move on, I will say there is so many houses being built next to me. There is wind, my mum's teaching violin downstairs, and I've had a cold, so there may be some hiccups, shall we say, but I think it'll be fine. So yeah, we'll just go straight into it. This is James chapter 3, and I'm going from the first verse to verse 18. I'm pretty sure that's what it is anyway, so you can follow along if you like. So I'm just going to go straight into it, verse 1. Dear brothers and sisters, not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly. Indeed, we all make mistakes. For if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect, and could also control ourselves in every other way. So he's starting off by saying, we know that our tongues, our mouths, our words can cause problems. What we say can really hurt people and be extremely problematic. It can cause issues. Not one person doesn't know this. We've all been hurt by something someone has said to us, or whether that be a bully or a friend, or being shouted at by a teacher or parent even, that can really hurt. And we've all said something that we regret as well, or We should have thought about it before we put it out into the world. And it's not like he's condemning us. He's not saying, you can't control yourself, you're a terrible person. We know that we can't control ourselves sometimes, and we give in to temptation and we try to make ourselves look better, or we just get angry. It just happens. It happens to everyone. And God knows this, and we know this. James says that if we can control our tongues and control our words, we would be perfect. If we could do that, we would be perfect. If we had the strength to control our tongues, then we'd have the strength to control everything else throughout our lives, and we'd never put a foot wrong. We'd be perfect. And he makes this statement in verse 1 as well. Not many of you should become teachers in the church. Why? Because those that teach are judged more strictly. And this is true. Imagine hearing someone standing up in church that says something that we disagree with. It can make us question God's message. It can make us question the reliability of the person speaking, or even the whole church or our faith completely. Cancel culture, I'm sure you've heard before, is huge right now online. And one slip up from someone or one disagreement can cause a huge impact, and that person can receive barely any grace or understanding, depending on the situation, of course. Obviously, as a Christian, this cancel culture, this whole thing, is something that we just can't give into. We need to show forgiveness and grace and mercy and discernment and ask God into these situations. But James is right. The teachers in our churches need to be people who actively seek God and invite the Holy Spirit in to discern what God's will is. They need to be people with a certain knowledge and understanding of God, a willingness to listen to Him, and grace to take their own wrong ways to Him. And that's not everyone at every point in their lives. And I might be speaking this to you right now, but I'm a trainee, I'm not an official church leader or teacher, and I'll admit that my words are not as controlled or discerned as others. So don't think that when you're reading this, James is saying you can't be a teacher in the church. Just know or be aware about what comes with it, what comes with being a teacher in the church. And he goes on and he says, we can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. I hope you know what that means, like a little, I don't know, it's a bit, it's like plastic or something. And you steer the horse with it, yeah. You'll know that if you've done it before. He carries on, he says, and a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It's a whole world of wickedness corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. Okay, let's pause for a second there. What is it talking about here? James gives us a few examples there. A bit steers a horse, a rudder steers a boat. Your tongue, or what you say, impacts your relationships, your personality, your day-to-day. He says a tiny spark can cause a great forest fire, and the tongue is a flame of fire. When you think about it, if someone were to punch you, that's painful, it's traumatic, it can be severely damaging. But you may know yourself that words can sting you and stick with you for many years after, even the rest of your life. One negative comment can totally spiral a situation or someone's mental well-being. And is that what a person of God should be doing? No, of course not. We know that. God says to do everything in love, 1 Corinthians 16:14. Love others as I have loved you, John 15:12. Above all, love each other deeply, 1 Peter 4:8. And James says something quite intense here as well, where he says the tongue is a flame of fire. It's a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. He's not wrong though, is he? The devil is the deceiver, the king of lies. He tempts us and he wants us to suffer. When we aren't speaking in love, that's not from God. That's it. And the next part, it carries on and says, people can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. Does a spring of water bubble out both fresh water and bitter water? Does a fig tree produce olives, or a grapevine produce figs? No, and you can't draw fresh water from a salty spring. If we are to say that we are Christians, people who believe that God created us and He knows best, we need to get serious about how we're living that out. We've talked about this in the last few weeks, looking at faith without works is dead and acting out what you read in God's Word, and this is very simple, but a very hard thing that we need to conquer. Simple because we speak every day, in person, in school, online, or at work, to strangers in the street, and it's hard because it's absolutely not something that we can do on our own by ourselves. We really need to recognise that this is God's will, and we need to ask Him into this part of our lives. If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honourable life, doing good works with humility that comes from wisdom. What are good works? Just look into the Bible. Love others, bring justice to the oppressed, help bring God's kingdom here on earth. Ask God into all your situations and relationships. And what are not good? But if you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying, for jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind. It might be bold of me to assume, but I'm fairly certain that everyone watching or listening to this will have been jealous at some point in their life. Jealous that your sibling got an extra biscuit, that your friend did better in a test, or maybe you think someone looks nicer than you. Especially as we get older and into teenage years, this becomes really damaging. We can become so bitter and insecure, wishing that we were like someone else, or we have what someone else has. And if you think about it, literally nothing good comes from that. It makes you suffer, it makes you angry, it makes you feel anger towards that person. I know it's happened to me, and I've been selfish and I've been jealous of others, and relationships in my life have really been affected by it, and other people have really been hurt. It happens. We're just human, and we still experience the impacts of the fall from Adam and Eve, but this isn't from God. How are we showing God's love? By being selfish and jealous. We can't antagonise and evangelise at the same time. And it carries on in James, but the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favouritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. And my Bible says a harvest of righteousness or justice or good things. And I love this last line. It kind of, I think, links to my favourite Bible verse, which comes from Matthew 6:19-21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. There's just something about this verse, this idea, that stuck with me my whole life, and I think it's amazing, it's an amazing thing to base your life around, if you're going to base it around something. If we are believers, if we are to bring God's kingdom here on earth and be His peacemakers, we need to live by His words and not of this world. We can't let ourselves be tempted by the devil or by the things that we see people doing that we know isn't God's way. We shouldn't bring disunity and division by being jealous of someone or letting our words get away with themselves. And let's be honest, sometimes we think that these are just some fancy words written down by some ancient old dude and it comes across as rules that we don't fancy following. But really, what good would saying everything that we want to? What good would just saying the words that we want to do? What good would that do? What good is disrespecting others? What we read in James is just as relevant today as it was and always will be. And I hope that that can be a challenge and an encouragement as you go out into the week. We as a youth team will continue to pray for you, that you'll know God's heart for you more every day, but take some time yourself to just ask God into your decisions and into your day. You won't regret it.